Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're looking into something really special, the precious sayings, the Farman Batain of Hazrat Murshad Karim, Hazrat Khawaja Shamsuddin Azeemi.
hmm
These are insights he shared directly with his companions, during meetings, different occasions, really practical wisdom.
Absolutely. Not just abstract ideas, but things shared in the moment, person to person.
Exactly. And crucially, we should mention our source here. All of this comes from the very famous book, Esoret El Batain Mir Marati.
Sayings of my spiritual guide.
Right. Written by Dr. Maqsood Ul-Hassan Azemi. It's just packed with this kind of guidance.
A real treasure trove, like you said.
So our mission today, yours and ours, is to sort of unpack these words. We want to get into the wisdom, understand the thinking behind them. It's like a shortcut, really, to grasping this spiritual guidance and how it actually applies, practically.
Yeah, how it works in life.
Okay, let's dive in.
What's always struck me about these sayings is how they blend profound spiritual truths with really human situations. Leadership, grief, decision-making.
Right, it's all there,
All
and it
there.
makes the lessons feel very real, very accessible, timeless almost.
Definitely. It gives you different lens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not just for spirituality, but for understanding people and, well, the challenges that come up.
That's a great point, and it connects directly to the first big piece of advice from Khawaja Shamsuddin Azemi that really stood out. He said, "A decision should not be made quickly after the demise of a Murshad, a spiritual guide."
hmm Sounds simple, but there's so much packed into that.
There really is.
It's about recognizing that state of grief, isn't it? How vulnerable you are. Losing a Murshad,
Mm.
it's not just personal loss. For a whole community, it's massive.
Disorienting.
So why is that specific emotional period so, well, tricky for making decisions? Well, in the Sufi understanding, that kind of deep grief, especially spiritual grief, it can leave you really open to influence, maybe even misinterpreting your own thoughts as guidance when they're just noise, clouded judgment.
So the advice is like a safeguard.
Exactly. A spiritual safeguard. Because clear thinking, real discernment, and kind of goes out the window when you're overwhelmed by sorrow.
And he gets specific about the timing, too. He actually puts a number on it.
He does. He says it takes 2 to 3 months for a person to come back to their senses.
2 to 3 months. And then adds, very important decisions should only be made after the Chelam.
The 40th day. That traditional period of mourning. It's seen as a time when the initial raw grief might start to settle a bit.
Right. But he also adds a warning, doesn't he, about other people.
Yes, he says, at that time the emotional state is strong. Cunning people make decisions then. That's quite stark.
It really is. It highlights how that vulnerability isn't just internal. It can be exploited externally, too.
And this isn't just theory for him. He lived through something like this, didn't he? He shares a very personal story.
He does. A powerful example of what can happen when this advice is ignored.
It centers around the time after his own Murshad, Hazrat Qalandar Baba Auliya, passed away.
Mm.
A critical moment.
Yeah, huge for the Azemi order.
Yeah.
He talks about this bureaucrat, a man named Badr Sahib.
Mhm.
And he says Badr Sahib basically took advantage of the situation. He sort of pushed things through.
Installed someone, Mohsen Sahib, as the successor at the khanqah, the spiritual center.
Without real consensus or proper spiritual discernment, it seems, just moved fast.
And this is where Khawaja Shamsuddin Azemi is so honest, so transparent about his own regret. It's quite humbling.
It really is. He says, although people told me to ascertain whether he was a caretaker or a spiritual successor, we were in our grief. I was not even in my senses.
Just lost in the moment. Understandable, really.
Completely. He continues. He did what he wanted, and the result was not good. Plain and simple.
And he reflects on his own part, saying if he hadn't raised his hand, basically agreed to the installation.
I could have said later that my opinion was not included in your selection.
That specific regret shows how much it weighed on him. Acknowledging his own role, even if it was passive, in something that went wrong because the timing and conditions weren't right.
And it shows the immediate negative consequences he mentioned. It wasn't just a theoretical risk.
No, it played out. That transparency is quite remarkable for a spiritual leader.
It really is. And there's another sort of surprising detail connected to this period about Qalandar Baba Auliya's actual disciples.
Oh yeah, that's fascinating. He mentions there were 29 in total.
Right. And he says among them, educated people were almost non-existent. Some were carpenters, some blacksmiths.
Just ordinary working people mostly. And if you think about that in the bigger picture,
Yeah.
wow, completely flips the script on what we usually think about leadership or succession.
Oh, really? You expect degrees, status.
Exactly. Yeah. But this suggests spiritual ability, that connection. It just isn't tied to worldly qualifications or education. It's about the heart, isn't it? Sincerity.
Purity of heart over learned intellect, as the saying goes.
It really speaks to that.
Yeah.
That divine grace can show up anywhere, in anyone, regardless of their job or social standing.
A really profound point. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Let's look at some of Khawaja Shamsuddin Azemi's own interactions. They teach a lot about, well, keeping that spiritual connection direct and avoiding people who might get in the way, maybe for their own reasons.
Yes, the intermediaries.
Yeah.
This first story involves Badr Sahib again, the same bureaucrat.
Right. Khawaja Shamsuddin Azemi goes to visit him, seeking connection.
But instead of just meeting him...
He's made to wait for an hour.
An hour, just sitting there.
Yeah. And his reaction when he finally gets in is pretty direct, no holding back.
What does he say?
He expresses his displeasure clearly. He says, "Brother, I came to meet my spiritual brother, not a deputy secretary."
Oof, straight to the point.
Right. He adds, "I had no work, no purpose, and no greed from you." Basically saying, I'm here for the connection, not your position.
That just cuts through all the pretense, doesn't it? It really zeroes in on the intention. Was it a spiritual meeting or a power play?
Exactly. He was there for brotherhood, not bureaucracy. It really makes you think, how do you keep those lines clear? Especially when worldly status gets involved.
Yeah, how do you separate genuine spiritual kinship from, the influence of titles and roles? It's tricky.
Very. And then there's another incident right after this meeting that's also quite revealing.
Mm-hmm.
He says he did something impulsive. He actually asked Badr Sahib for advice.
Advice?
On what?
On publishing Hazrat Qalandar Baba Auliya, the biography of his own master.
Huh. After just being made to wait an hour and calling him out, that seems odd.
He thought so too, almost immediately. He says he regretted it instantly.
Really?
Yeah, he says, I came home extremely worried and restless about why I had even asked for advice. Just churning over it.
Then, he says, around 3 a.m, it hit him. Like a realization. The thought came. When did Hazrat Qalandar Baba Auliya ever tell you to consult with him? Meaning Badr Sahib.
Ah. So the guidance should have come directly or through his established connection to his Murshad, not this external source.
Precisely. It's that moment of self-correction, realizing he'd sought validation where it wasn't appropriate.
That's fascinating. It shows how easily, even for someone spiritually advanced, the mind can kind of slip. Seek external approval, maybe? Even when you have that direct line.
Right. Relying on worldly opinion instead of that inner guidance or the connection to the master.
It's like a subtle test, maybe. Learning to trust that direct link above all else, especially when the external advice might be, colored by ego or status.
Yeah, trusting your own spiritual source. And that leads perfectly into the next incident, perhaps the most powerful one about protecting that direct connection.
Okay, what happened here?
Again, it involves Badr Sahib. He says, once Badr Sahib called me and said, I have a message for you from Hazrat Qalandar Baba Auliya.
Wow. Okay, claiming to be a messenger from the master himself.
Exactly, and Khawaja Shamsuddin Azemi's response, just incredibly firm.
What did he say?
He replied, I said, if I don't have the strength to contact Hazrat Qalandar Baba Auliya, then he certainly has the power to give me the message directly. I will not hear it from you.
Straight up refused it.
Flat out. He adds, so let's talk about something else. Just shut it down.
Yeah, that takes serious conviction.
It really does. And he even mentions his suspicion about the motive, saying, perhaps he wanted to say that I should not visit the shrine anymore.
So maybe an attempt to control access or influence him through a supposed message?
That seems to be the implication.
If you connect that to the bigger picture, that's a huge lesson in spiritual integrity, isn't it? Protecting the authenticity of your connections. Recognizing when someone might be trying to insert themselves between you and your guide. For whatever reason, maybe power, maybe control.
It really poses the question, how careful, how vigilant do you have to be to keep that path pure and direct?
Extremely, it seems.
Yeah.
You have to ensure no one becomes this kind of unauthorized gatekeeper to your spiritual source. True guidance comes direct or through the proper pure channels.
A really powerful stance he took. Shows unwavering trust in his link to his master.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's look at the final example we have from the sources today. This one really drives home the consequences, often unseen consequences, of ignoring a master's clear instructions, especially regarding succession.
Right. This involves another spiritual figure, Badr Sahib Abu Sheikh Qalandar Ali Surawardi.
Yes. And the source states very clearly he willed that a certain person should be his deputy and caliph. He named someone specific.
So a clear directive for who should carry on the spiritual lineage.
Yeah.
From the master himself.
Exactly. Very clear. But that's not what happened.
It did happen.
Yeah. Well, the sources say, after him, his son was installed on his spiritual seat, not the person named in the will.
Ah, the family connection took precedence over the master's explicit will.
It seems so. And the consequences were stark. It says the son lived for some time and then passed away in his youth.
Passed away young.
Yes. And the reason given is profound. He could not bear the anwar, the spiritual lights associated with the position.
The Anwar. Okay, let's unpack that. What does that mean? The spiritual lights.
Well, in Sufism, anwar isn't just symbolic. It's understood as a real, potent, divine energy, a spiritual current flowing through the lineage from the master.
Like a spiritual power source.
Kind of. And the idea here is that holding that position, being the vessel for that anwar, requires more than just a blood connection. It needs divine appointment, specific spiritual readiness.
An aptitude for handling that level of spiritual energy.
Exactly. Something you can't just inherit like property. It has to align with the master's original divinely inspired choice. The right vessel is needed for that specific current.
So, the son, despite being the son, wasn't the chosen vessel and couldn't handle the spiritual intensity of the role.
That's the implication. And it didn't stop there. After the first son passed away,
They appointed another son.
after him, his second son was made his successor, but still not the one about whom he had made the will.
So they still didn't follow the original instruction.
No. Doubling down on deviating from the will.
So what does this all ultimately mean? What was the end result of ignoring the master's directive?
The conclusion in the source is incredibly blunt. It just says, the result was that the matter stopped there.
Stop there, meaning.
It implies the spiritual lineage, the flow of that anwar, the transmission of grace and knowledge. It was disrupted, severed, perhaps.
Wow. So not just a family issue, but the actual spiritual purpose of the lineage potentially came to a halt.
That seems to be the warning. The propagation of that specific spiritual light and wisdom stopped because the chosen path was abandoned.
That really raises a massive question, doesn't it? What are the unseen costs, the deep spiritual consequences, when a lineage deviates from the founder's clear, guided will?
It suggests the cost is immense. It can literally stop the flow of spiritual benefit, impacting generations.
A truly sobering thought.
Yeah.
It highlights just how sacred that trust, that transmission really is.
Absolutely. You know, reflecting on all this, we've really uncovered some deep wisdom today from Hazrat Khawaja Shamsuddin Azeemi's words. Practical lessons about making decisions in difficult times, about maintaining spiritual integrity against worldly pressures, and the huge importance of following the master's guidance.
Indeed. And it brings us back to that core idea. Every single word from a Murshad, it has layers, it has depth. There's always some secret, some wisdom hidden inside.
Right.
And now, well, it's really up to us, isn't it? Up to you listening, to think about it, to reflect, and try to understand that secret, that depth for yourself.
Yeah.
May Allah grant us all the ability to think with the clarity and insight of Murshadi Kareem. Amen.
Amen. Well, with many prayers for everyone, farewell for now. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
And please do subscribe to this channel, your own channel, Melody of Divine.